Throughout the history of Celtic Football Club, its supporters have revelled in the glories of a succession of magnificent sides, enjoying a unique bond with the club and its players. In the 90s, the club came perilously close to shutting its gates for the last time. In the midst of supporters' despair, Fergus McCann stepped in to pull Celtic back from the brink.
Yes, it was a difficult time for Celtic. It was a very dark day back in March when the club was on the point of going out of business entirely, and 105 years of history gone, and that was a very difficult starting point, as you can imagine.
The most pressing matter for Celtic was the issue of the stadium. The deadline for compliance with the Taylor Report's recommendations for all-seated stadia was fast approaching. An agreement was reached to allow Celtic to play home matches at Hampden while Celtic Park was redeveloped. There were also immediate team matters to deal with, and in the close season, ex-Celt Tommy Burns was appointed manager, with Billy Stark as assistant. Their task would be to deliver much-needed success to Celtic supporters.
I wanted to make sure my time here is spent fruitfully and working as hard as I can, because I know the people that come to support Celtic, that come week in, week out, and year out, are expecting things to happen, and they'll be made aware of everything that goes on at Celtic Football Club, because I'll make sure that they're aware of everything that's happening. It's their club, and they're entitled to know everything that's going on.
The recent turmoil has had an effect on both supporters and players, but team captain Paul McStay remains the nucleus around which the team is formed. John Collins, a player of unique talent and vision, contributes to a midfield which has been further strengthened by the purchase of Phil O'Donnell from Motherwell. The close season return of Andy Walker to the fold and the emergence of the promising young Simon Donnelly offered encouraging signs that the quest for silverware could be within grasping distance. Progress in the League Cup has also offered hope for supporters.
For the semi-final of the Cup against Aberdeen at Ibrox with 35,000 Celtic supporters, I don't think there's another club in the world that could get 35,000 supporters coming to their games, especially having not won anything for 5 or 6 years. I think it's absolutely incredible, and the passion and the fervour that they support the club with is really frightening.
Tommy Burns was noted for a similar commitment to the club he loves, and shares the anxiety of supporters who have not tasted success since he wore the hoop jersey himself as a player. The Scottish Cup was won in 1989 with Celtic defeating Rangers by 1 goal, scored by Joe Miller. Few supporters could have realised that victory would herald a lean period, during which no trophies would be added to Celtic's collection of honours, which boasts, among other prizes, the European Cup, 35 league championships, 9 League Cups, and 29 Scottish Cups. One of the most memorable of these occasions was the Scottish Cup final of 1937 against Aberdeen. Hampden Park was crammed with an incredible 146,433 spectators, the record attendance for a European club match. More than 20,000 were locked outside the ground. With both teams eager to provide a spectacle, Johnny Crumb scored for Celtic after 12 minutes. Celtic's lead lasted less than a minute as Armstrong netted a loose ball to equalise for Aberdeen. With Celtic dominating in the second half, it was Willie Buchan who settled the game, and Celtic took the cup. Emergence of a promising side at the start of the 50s heralded Celtic's next period of success. Among the names of Evans, McPhail, Peacock and Tully was that of a young Sligo man who fulfilled an ambition to play for Celtic at an early age.
Because actually I told them a lie when I joined them. I took about 5 or 6 years off my age, you know. With the result I had to go and get a couple of birth certificates, you know, one correct and one not so correct. But I got away with it.
In 1951, the gates had to be closed at Parkhead when Celtic met Aberdeen in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. John McPhail opened Celtic's account in what was a prolific season for him. The second, just before half-time, was scored by supporters' favourite, the incomparable Charlie Tully. John McPhail finished the scoring in the 81st minute. After disposing of Wraith Rovers to reach the final, Celtic faced Motherwell at Hampden in front of a huge crowd.
Because I had some friends over from Sligo to see the game, and they were amazed. There was 129,000 people at the game. What I remembered about it was the tremendous play from Tully and McPhail, because they passed each other the ball from the halfway line right up to the 18-yard line, with McPhail finishing. No one else touched the ball. Celtic hadn't been doing too well, so it was a great lift for them to win a trophy.
2 years later, as part of the celebrations for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, Celtic participated in a tournament between 8 teams from England and Scotland. Celtic defeated Arsenal and Manchester United. Having started as outsiders, they defeated Hibernian 2-0 in the final. Jock Stein, who had been signed from Llanelli the previous season, lifted the prestigious trophy for Celtic. The Coronation Cup resides in Celtic's collection, along with a magnificent assortment of trophies won outright in one-off competitions.
Celtic, winners of the League Championship, were finalists with Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup. Over 130,000 supporters went to Hampden Park to encourage their favourites.
A shot across goal from Neely Mochan was deflected by Young of Aberdeen into his own goal to open the scoring. An equaliser came from Buckley in the next minute. The deadlock was broken with a piece of individual brilliance from Willie Fern.
I always remember the winning goal. Willie run from his own half of the field, and I was running alongside him. And he kept on running. I said, I'm not going to get this ball at all. He kept beating player after player. And eventually, he got right to the byline, and he cut it back. All I had to do was just put in the net, really. It was one of the best runs that I ever witnessed. A player on the ball and keeping it so close to his feet.
In 1957, Celtic inflicted a record 7-1 defeat in the League Cup final over Rangers. The victory was hailed as an example of skill and control triumphing over power and force. It is a result which is remembered and savoured to the present day.
Oh, Hampden in the sun, Celtic 7, Rangers 1. All the people shout and scream, 'cause they want a revival scene. Well, if Ernie did a dance, and he gave the Jers no chance, he gave Big McPhail the ball, and he stuck it in the hanging pail. Oh, Hampden in the sun, Celtic 7, Rangers 1. All the people shout and scream, 'cause they want a revival scene.
However, it would be the swan song for a side which within months would be devastated by injury, transfer and retirement.
They were an aging side. A lot of us were 34, 35, 36, 37. And the chairman at that time, Bob Kelly, he decided to start a youth policy instead of buying players.
After a spell as reserve team coach, Jock Stein departed to managerial success with Dunfermline and Hibs. Unrest grew among supporters as 7 years passed without success. When Stein returned as manager in 1965, he did so under his own terms.
What I wanted to do was to prove to the people I was capable of taking full control. And I came on the basis of that. I wasn't long until I got that.
The Scottish Cup final of 1965 offered Stein an early opportunity for success. With the score level at 1-1, just before half-time, Dunfermline were awarded a free kick 20 yards from goal.
And it's a goal! A goal by McLaughlin! Well, there's no doubt about that one. All stroking it to Lennox. Who's suddenly got a score? Goal! Has it left all again? Inside forward Lennox with McLean out of position for once. And Lennox showing a turn of speed they didn't expect. Corner for Celtic. There he goes. It's a good one. It's a goal! A goal by McNeil. Billy McNeil has scored. With 9 minutes to go. Captain's job, and he's made the score. Celtic 3, Dunfermline 2.
Yeah, I remember the joy and excitement of the whole thing. You know, it was tremendous, but it was a tremendous occasion for us because that was the breakthrough. You know, that was the one. That was us having achieved a trophy, as it were. And the lovely thing about it was, a year later, we were league champions.
Out to Rick Johnson taking the throw. Gallagher, and it's a goal by Lennox. And it's Lennox who's always there when he's needed. Step forward Ferguson to Edwards. Clark. Number 6 to Chambers. An intelligent pass. Chambers with McLean. And here's a chance for Lennox. Johnston. Has a goal. A goal by Johnston.
Celtic, under the first full season of Jock Stein's managership, finished 2 points ahead of Rangers to win their first championship in 12 years. Earlier that season, they had defeated Rangers to lift the League Cup. They had also reached the final of the Scottish Cup and the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. Stein had taken a group of talented individuals and created a team.
The game in space. So it's up to each individual player. Not necessarily on the ball, off the ball or otherwise.
Big Jock concentrating doing things simply. He never asked too much of players, but where he was very good at spotting what their speciality was, and he asked them to go and do that. And although there were guidelines set down, they were wide open for you to exploit and for you to improvise.
At the back, it's always been Billy and John Clark tighten up here at the back.
Well, as far as I can see, boss, it just means that John and I'll have to make up our mind early which one of us is going to pick up the main striker.
That's a very good move, that, boss. You know, with me holding the ball in the middle of the park there, big Yogi hesitating just that few seconds to allow Tom.
Stein worked with players he had developed as youngsters in the youth team, and he involved himself in every aspect of their welfare.
All I try to do is to try and work for the players, because after all, the players work for me when they're on the field. I try to take an interest in them on and off the field, and I think that the real success that I've had, if any, is because I've treated each player with respect and got his respect in return.
There's no one player there in that Lisbon team that couldn't thank him for something that they did other than take them to the pinnacle, take them to the heights in the football side, but personally in their family side, away from it, that he done something. Because he knew that if you were right up there, he would get the best out of you. And that's all he wanted for the Celtic Football Club and for the supporters. Was you they're just going out there to play football 100% with nothing in your, no worries in your mind. That was his greatest point.
Stein brought his own ideas to every facet of the team's approach.
Training became fun. Training became, forget about running all the time, although we worked very hard and we were a very fit team that people perhaps don't appreciate just the fitness of the team. The attitude of the boys in training was great, but Jock changed all the mundane stuff, and we did an awful lot of work with the ball. We worked to a degree on free kicks and corner kicks and set pieces and the like, but in the main it was enjoyment and expression, and Jock loved that. And I think at that time you had the kind of players who could adjust to that and could develop it that wee stage further.
Celtic embarked on an extensive tour of North America, which was also invaluable to the team.
We had gone to America in 1966 in full season. We were away for 5.5 weeks in actual fact. I honestly always felt that close season trip really set the scene for everything, because it got us all together, it got us all aware of what the potential of the team was, but most importantly it got us all to appreciate each other's friendliness and attitude, and the team spirit that came from that was absolutely brilliant.
Celtic began season 66-67 in impressive style with a 1-0 victory over Rangers in the League Cup final. Bobby Lennox scored in the 19th minute to give Celtic the 4th League Cup success. It was to be the club's most successful season ever, and saw them in the final of the Scottish Cup with the league championship still undecided.
This can be a year that every one of us can remember, so let's make sure that each player helps each other. Make sure if somebody's having a bad game, somebody near him helps them. So let's go now, Billy, and make sure that this is another game that will add to the rest of the victories we've had, and it'll be a season we'll all remember.
Celtic faced Aberdeen in the final. The decisive tactic employed by Stein was to play Johnson at inside left, forming a double spearhead with recent signing from Hearts, Willie Wallace. It was Wallace who would score both of Celtic's goals, the first coming towards the end of the first half. Shortly after the interval, Jimmy Johnson broke through to set up Wallace for his second. It was an important victory for Stein and Celtic. Defeat at this stage could have undermined the confidence of the team and left them with little to show for the season. However, Billy McNeill lifting a trophy would become a familiar sight by the end of that season. There had been few upsets in a magnificent season, which saw only 2 defeats in the whole league campaign. Celtic went to Ibrox in May, looking for 1 point to claim the championship. Among the 78,000 crowd that day were some familiar faces, and espionage tactics were employed by Heleno Herrera, manager of Inter Milan, Celtic's forthcoming European Cup final opponents. Rangers scored first in the constant heavy rain, which provided ideal conditions for the talents of Jimmy Johnston.
It's a goal for Celtic, yes! Johnston has scored.
It was an appalling day as I remember it, but the pace of the game and the ferocity of the game was something dramatic. Again, that was an achievement because we had to go to Ibrox to win the league, and that was important.
It rained all day that day, and it poured for the heavens, and it continued right through the match. And this was about the last 10 minutes of the match, and the park was absolutely sodden. I mean, you were just sinking into it.
Into Johnston. Johnston. And a goal by Johnston. That makes it 2 by him. And that makes the score Rangers 1, Celtic 2.
I couldn't believe it. And the guys all get running about. I was knackered. I was shoving them out of the way. I couldn't get a breath. It was a wee bit special.
Everything just seemed to go our way. I think there's a wee touch of a fairy tale image about Celtic, and certainly it came to fruition that season. But I remember going down before the European Cup final. We were down at Seamill, and we did very little. We played a bit of golf, we did a little bit of light training, but we didn't do an awful lot. But the most important thing was all of a sudden people from all over Europe were coming to televise us, watch us training, watch us preparing.
The European Cup must be everyone in Scotland's ambition. No Scottish team has ever reached the final even. I think this is a big dream. I think it would be a tremendous performance for any club to do so.
Convincing victories over FC Zurich and Nantes, and a last-gasp Billy McNeill winner against Vojvodina had earned Celtic a semi-final place. They faced Dukla Prague for a place in the final.
And he scored, Strunk has scored to make it 1 goal each, just on half-time. The McGimmel. Wallace, the goal! Wallace has scored, Celtic 2, Dukla 1. And sent forward all.
Celtic were the first British team to win a place in the European Cup final. The prospect of facing Inter Milan was relished by players and manager.
He was always confident that we could do a job. Didn't matter who we were playing. He would brief us about what the opposition was like, what they were about and what we were capable of doing, and that was it. So he put us onto the part of Freddie Nolan.
The final was to be played in Portugal, and supporters flocked to Lisbon prior to the game.
But the fans were there ahead of us, and they had set the scene. I mean, they had captured the imagination of the Portuguese, and the Portuguese, when we came, they were ready to welcome us as the favoured sons, and it was a real beautiful atmosphere.
Two opposing footballing philosophies clashed, with Stein's brand of attacking football up against Herrera's brand of negative defensive tactics. The scene was set for a magnificent occasion.
Lovely stadium, and the colours were terrific because our green and white really stood out against their blue and black. The final was probably the easiest game we had in the campaign because they got the penalty kick earlier on, and from then on in it was just a matter, if we ever did get the ball, we gave it to Berthold or to Bobby Murdoch and they took over.
After losing a first-half penalty goal, Celtic bombarded the Inter defence for an hour, until eventually the breakthrough came.
Get the splitters of split-second chances against a defence like Inter's. Head up. Oh, a great shot and a great save by Sati.
I think the people that really excelled themselves with the midfield and the people at the back, the two full-backs. But possibly we made it for them because we were taking people into positions and we're leaving that open. But the midfield were tremendous. The boys that Bertie and Bobby were hitting and playing, they completely controlled it. And we're saying, when are they going to start playing? Are you kidding us on here or what? And when I look at the match now, I just can't believe how many chances that we created in the match.
Gibble. Better. It's goal! Celtic has scored! Better shot as a Celtic gentleman on the pitch. Only 5 minutes to go. And without a doubt, the European Cup is on its way. Celtic have won. The goal scorers, Gibble and Chalmers. And onto the field come thousands of Celtic fans. This is a great moment.
When I was in the dressing room after the game, because I remember Jock, I think he'd just come out the bath, he was sweating as much as the players. And with Hugh McIlvenny, and I said, Jock, you're immortal now.
But do you remember that guy in the kilt on the park? I don't think Scotland will ever forget him. A t-shirt and a kilt and sand shoes. These big silly socks on. And the guy cutting the centre spot. It's on somebody's mantelpiece and a big soggy bit of turf.
Kenneth Wolstenholme says the only night he remembers to compare with that is when England won the World Cup.
Did they? Well, there you go.
Jockstein had said that he wanted the team to make everyone in Europe glad that Celtic had reached the final. And that's a very big ambition. And it's an ambition that was fulfilled. In the game, Celtic played with a daring and an adventure, which at that time was most untypical of European football. And if you were a fan switching the game on in Germany or France or Spain, I think you'd have been delighted to see that kind of football being played.
The whole aspect of going back to Glasgow was terrific. All the way in, there were people greeting us. They weren't all Celtic supporters, but I think the people of Glasgow just wanted to turn out and show their appreciation. But when we came down here and came back into this bit, then it all came to life. And that was the lovely thing about it was, Celtic for me have always had this all-embracing attitude that they all want the club to succeed. Players, management, directors, fans, in particular fans. And it seemed as though the fans just wanted to welcome us. It was like a family party. That's what it was like. It was brilliant.
Celtic Park had never seen scenes like it, as throngs of supporters hailed the conquering heroes as they brought the European Cup home to paradise.
It's true that the people who formed this club looked very far ahead. At a time when the biggest gate was about 12,000, they built a ground to accommodate 70,000 people. I don't think we'd be as clever to look as far ahead as these people did in these days. But again, I don't think the old people could envisage such changes in the game.
When Celtic moved 200 yards across Jenfield Street to the stadium's present site, one observer, commenting upon its proximity to the cemetery, remarked that it was like leaving the graveyard and entering paradise.
All clubs have to have a spiritual attachment to the area in which they operate, the community in which they gain their existence. And the East End of Glasgow is Celtic's home. It's where the club was brought into being. It was originally formed to serve 3 parishes in the East End of Glasgow. So there is an overwhelming bond between the club and that particular part of the city. It would have been alien for Celtic to have gone somewhere else.
It's not only the spiritual home, it's just good business to stay here. I think we already have invested a great deal in this building in the past, and I think it's a very good location. It's what people are used to. So we've got to start with what we've got that's good and build something on it that's excellent.
Construction has already begun on Celtic's new home. When completed, it will be the largest club stadium in Britain with a capacity of 60,000. By season 95-96, the first stage will be complete with seating for 34,000. The following season will see the completion of the stadium when the two ends will be in place. Demolition work has been completed and the creation of a stadium for the next millennium has begun.
Work all night in the cold and dark, build that dream. Work all night at the Celtic Park, build that team. If the colours are on their way, can't be
It is a time of great change for Celtic Park. Many will mourn the passing of a place where they celebrated great occasions and applauded great sides.
Big Joe always wanted this place to be developed, because I remember when after we won the European Cup, the jungle then disappeared and it was replaced by the modern structure. He wanted to do that all the time and he wanted to continue. And I think he had difficulty putting his aims forward with the board because they were a bit restrictive on what he wanted to do. I think had Jock got his way, then this would have been a much more modern stadium.
When you were stood there and the hairs in the back of your neck would stand out, if you're waiting in that tunnel ready to go out in a match, the boys in the jungle, they could see you and then they just erupted, then the whole ground erupted.
But when you've played in front of the jungle, that was the first thing we seen when we come out the tunnel, their faces. And funny enough, over the years you could actually see the young ones becoming grown up.
Well, you could, because you used to stand there.
Come on in the jungle there.
You used to stand there. I wonder who you got to bury.
Well, we had to stand there, Bobby and I, because if the ball was on this side of the park, no chance of getting it, because Murdoch would only get to Johnson, and Johnson wouldn't get to Nathan.
I hated that just cruising it in the middle. That was nothing.
Looking at it, for us it's a dream come true. A brand new stadium taking place here. And I think we all wanted Celtic to stay here. Forget about moving here, there, anywhere else. This is a home of Celtic. We wanted it. It'll be lovely to see a completed stadium here. No doubt about that.
And it doesn't matter who has the shares. They people that's on the terraces, the jungle, the stand on either end, they own Celtic football.
That's the club. They are the club.
They are Celtic football.
No more we'll stand and cheer you on the slopes of Celtic Park. No more we'll stand and cheer you on the slopes of Celtic Park.
The introduction of all-seated stadia has affected every club in the country. It remains to be seen whether Celtic supporters can recreate the atmosphere which inspired successive teams to so many memorable victories.
Well, you might think Celtic have scored, judging by that tremendous chorus. Here's Lennox. The goal. It's a goal for Celtic. Shot over the line, I think, by Wallace. It's Celtic 1, Rangers 1.
The noise that particular night was unbelievable, because we knew that we had to win that particular game, and it was a great thing to score against Rangers at any time, but this particular night when the place was out just bedlam.
Wallace. Murdoch.
And that night was a superb night, it was a marvellous night, and the noise from, the jungle, the atmosphere in those days was great.
There's Lennox. It's a goal by Lennox, right out of the blue. Celtic 3, Rangers 1, technically on the final whistle.
A lot of people don't realise how hard that team worked. It just wasn't a thing on the park, we done my thing. We worked hard Monday to Friday, really, really hard. Worked hard on the track, worked hard on the training ground, and we were fit. We scored a lot of goals late on because the crowd got behind us and helped us in the last 10-15 minutes, but also because the boys were fit enough to go and do it. We played Morton here one one season to win the league, and we're drawing one each later in the game, and we knew from the crowd the Rangers had won at Kilmarnock.
Well, we're in injury time now. Do you think it must go in? It has! It's a goal! And Lennox has scored in injury time. And Parkhead are just on Berder.
Would have played in a bit of spare ground because of the passion they had for the game, to be fortunate enough to be involved with Celtic Football Club. But each and every player wanted to play for this club.
All taking this. It's a good one. There's McNeil. Murdoch's up there. Wallace, a goal!
Jock believed in attacking football, and it didn't matter who scored the goals, as long as they got into position to score them. It looked as if that he had so many people to choose from, and they were all potential winners.
Here's Old, it's a goal. Goal by Old, following up beautifully. Celtic 2, Hibs nothing. Johnson with it is a good one. Lennox has scored. Here's Old. There's a beautiful pass to Lennox. He must score. He has. Here's Chalmers. And a great goal. Lennox finishing it off. Now Johnston, everybody retreating to the penalty area, and up comes Craig. Bad one by Craig's a goal. A bad cross, but it worked out well for him eventually. Oh, this is brilliant stuff from Johnston.
They paid their money, and they were entertainer, really. At the end of the day, that was your stage. And they deserved it, a wee bit special, a wee bit extra. And I knew it. And I used to get it and go to the tab and come back again, you'd 3 or 4 run about you, and you just in the business, you know, for the punter. When you got that, and you got that feeling, the buzz going through the place, it's tremendous.
As usual, Billy McNeil will be up for this. There's McNeil, it's a goal. A goal by McNeil as the Rangers defend. Absolutely smashed, brilliantly taken by McNeil. And within a minute of the start of the game, Celtic have got 1 goal up. Hesitantly, here's Lennox, almost with a gift. It's a goal by Lennox. Number 2 for Celtic, Lennox the scorer. Old. Smith with him. And it goes to Lennox again. Nearly number 3. Greg against Connolly. What a chance for Connolly. It's a goal. It's a goal by Connolly. Billy McNeil right in position again. Here by Gemmell. On towards All. No offside. McKinnon appealing for offside, but no. Here's Chalmers. It's a great goal by Chalmers.
1971 saw the last appearance of the Lisbon Lions as a team. Redevelopment of the stand was in progress as the team was led out by Ronnie Simpson, who had announced his retirement. Auld and Clark departed shortly after. Jock Stein had already anticipated the gradual breakup of the Lisbon team and had available to him a group of talented youngsters known collectively as the Quality Street Gang.
We all had our own targets to get into the team sort of as quick as possible. There was a sort of race between one another, but when it came to it together, there was a bond between us whereby we'd all supported one another almost to any lengths on the park when required.
Lennox
Among those breaking into the team were Lou Macari, Danny McGrain, Davy Hay, George Connolly and Kenny Dalglish.
I mean, anybody could have played in the first team at that time. Man. It was just in the aftermath of the Lisbon Lions, obviously. And, I mean, the lads there were great players, but they're also great people, and they were very helpful to likes myself and other younger lads that were there at the time. When I first came into the side, we played Rangers 3 times in 2 weeks. At Ibrox, when they were developing the stand at Celtic Park.
Penalty kick. Dalglish against McCloy.
And to play 3 times at Ibrox in a fortnight was a bit nerve-wracking to say the least. But as I say, we got over it and we won 3 games, so everything got off to a good start.
The kick to be taken by Callaghan. McNeil going in. McNeil has scored. Billy McNeil has scored.
Bobby Muddock with it. It scores a goal. A goal by Dean. Ball coming off his arm, but Brownlee just getting to that, or does he? Dean's it in. What a chance. Must be a goal. No. He scored. Deans has scored number 3. Long fighting hard, but again you see somebody at the back for Celtic. And Deans is onside. Great chance for Deans as a goal.
Dalglish. Beautiful one to Craig. Craig into the middle to Dean. Macari it was who got it. Craig. Again, the big gaps in the Hibs defence. Craig squaring it. In comes Connolly.
A stunning hat-trick by Dixie Deans contributed to the most convincing Scottish Cup final win this century.
I mean, everybody chipped in and everybody helped. And you were a Celtic player. You might not have been a first-team player, but you were a Celtic player. And that was important. And you were made to feel important. And you were made to feel part of the club. And I think that is reflected in the happiness it was about the club at that particular time.
Jock Stein had steered Celtic to 9 league championships in a row, an unsurpassed feat. He had done so with mostly homegrown talent.
Glasgow Celtic's the most successful football club in the world. Yeah. Nobody can dispute that.
What about Ajax, Benfica, teams like that?
Well, they haven't won 9 successive leagues. Celtic's nearly certain to win the league 9 successive times. And they've been in the League Cup 10 successive years, final. I mean, who can do that? They've won the European Cup and they've been in all that and they've played all the teams.
Come on now, Ward, get it sorted out, come on.
It was marvellous for us, by Joe, and for myself especially. It wasn't really until after I'd left that he became a friend, really, and you see him in a different light then. He was very loyal and respectful and really appreciative of what anybody tried to do for him. But obviously as a manager he had to show a different side, and if you stepped out of line you were bang in trouble. I mean, there's many a time he sent you back to get your hair cut again because it wasn't cut short enough. But that was only part of growing up and part of the discipline that you need to become a professional footballer. You'd like to think that in your future life, not only in football but outside of football, that a lot of what Jock Stein had preached to you had got through, and I'm sure certainly it's made myself and I'm sure a lot of the other lads better people, not only in football terms but also in their life.
Come on, Rob, come on, come on. Come on, Rob, listen. Oh, steady, leave room for Dixie. Oh, watch your feet outside ball. Leave room. Oh, John. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Come on, finish up with Dixie, come on. That's us, lads.
In the environs of Celtic Park, many outstanding young players were nurtured to maturity, but one stood out above all.
It's a great chance for Celtic. He's there.
Celtic supporters were privileged to witness the flowering of a young talent in Kenny Dalglish. He would become one of the most electrifying performers in British football.
against 1. And it's there. Leafs running well on it. And Clyde, there he is again. Oh, what a goal! Oh, quite magnificent. It was dispossessed. Dalglish, Deans, back to Dalglish, and the shot superbly struck. What a brilliant goal by Kenny Dalglish.
It was such a standout that you just could do nothing but, you know, try and learn and try and look at him. But some of the things he did, you knew you couldn't possibly attempt. That was just Kenny. It was so amazing that you could be so excited by somebody getting the ball. Every time he didn't get the ball, I used to feel an urgency that, you know, just keep giving Dalglish the ball.
Dalglish. Slipping Miller. Still there. What an astonishing goal by Kenny Dalglish.
Maybe Scots are biased at these things, but I tend to think Dalglish played his most individual football with Celtic. He would score the most extraordinary goals, solo efforts. But he was a wonderful player for Liverpool, but I think maybe he was at his most thrilling when he was with Celtic as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old. And it was nice to think that people in Glasgow saw the very best of him.
Right to McDonald. Dalglish. It's a great goal.
Kenny Dalglish was transferred to Liverpool for a record fee of £440,000 and went on to earn the same affection from the Kop as that accorded to him by the Jungle. He returned to Celtic Park with Liverpool the following year for Jock Stein's testimonial match. With the Lisbon team present, Jock said an emotional farewell to supporters, in whose hearts his memory will live forever. It was to those same supporters that Kenny Dalglish and Liverpool turned to in the darkest hour of the English club's history. The city of Liverpool and the nation had been stunned 2 weeks before by the tragic death of 95 Liverpool fans at Hillsborough. Kenny Dalglish turned to Celtic to provide the opposition for a benefit match.
Liverpool went back to play Celtic after the Hillsborough disaster, when it was the first game, and both sets of fans joined together, and it gave both teams a tremendous reception.
60,000 fans had gathered to pay tribute to the dead in a unique and highly emotional occasion.
The important thing was the reaction of the crowd and the way that they showed their appreciation for each other, and the way that they accepted Liverpool Football Club up to Celtic Park that day.
Well, I'm sure that these very familiar and warm sounds coming from the terracings will act as a huge tonic to these Liverpool players who have come through a long, dark tunnel in the past couple of weeks.
I think that's something that will live in your mind for a long, long time.
Dalglish, that's great play, Barnes. Tries to curl it, Brian, that must be a goal, it is. Kenny Dalglish, would you believe? And he wants it. Isn't it marvellous to see a broad smile in that man's face again?
The return of Billy McNeill as manager immediately revived the club's fortunes. An astonishing 4-2 win over Rangers at Ibrox in 1979 to clinch the championship had been the springboard for the success his side had achieved.
Those 5 years we achieved a fair bit because we had saw possibly the best period of Aberdeen and Dundee United, and we achieved three league titles and a Scottish Cup win and a League Cup win, so we achieved an awful lot. More importantly, we had the basis of a good side.
Drummond, a good position for Celtic, and there's a goal. Nicholas has done it. 1-0 for Celtic, 23 minutes gone. Drummond to take it. Second chance. Well and down, and that's him. One of the McLeod, number 2.
Not one of these players like getting beat. Training matches, sprints, long runs, every single player at the Celtic team wanted to win it, and that just came right onto a match situation, and any side playing against us always knew they were in a match.
Patterson in again, playing very well for him. His interception very timely, positional sound very good, but Robin has it now on the outside. Danny McGrain then runs for left fly again. It's a great goal. Oh yes. Robin, what's a beautiful ball. McCluskey, second chance. That's it. Next day, 1-0. Beautiful ball by McStay. Yes, number 29, Charlie Nicholas. All through to Burns. This must be, yes. 3-0. Burns to the outside, that was very neat. Sinclair stumbled a little, recovers well. Oh, no cover for the McGalvey, and he punishes Hibbs and Howden. Celtic once again picking up these balls in midfield, and that's an excellent ball by Burns. Robin. Will he let fly? Goes a bit too far and it's gone in.
There's an affinity between the Celtic players and the Celtic supporters that really doesn't exist anywhere else. And I felt it. I played most of my career right out in front of the jungle. And I'd like to think I had a great relationship with them. But there is a bond there between the Celtic players and the supporters. I think you only have to look at the way Celtic players celebrate when they score.
Robin coming up on it. It's a goal by Nicholas. Charlie Nicholas opens a scoring for Celtic.
Nicholas was tremendous. The most exciting talent I've seen in this country for years and years.
Charlie broke into the team as a 19-year-old. At that stage, he was possibly as good as any young player in Europe. He really was.
You get into a dressing room where you've got so many characters and so many people who know how Celtic work, i.e. Danny McGrain, Tommy Burns, Roy Akins, who make you feel that you really deserve to be there. That 3 months before, I was still going to the jungle, although I was involved with Celtic. I was still going there, and it really transformed within really like 6 months. I was for jungle into first team player, and there's no words to explain how that happened.
Into Nicholas, who ran very intelligently in. He's aiming for goal himself this time. And a brilliant goal. An absolutely superb goal by Nicholas.
But I think Celtic lost a real tremendous player that could have built a team round about. But again, it was typical of a negative attitude, because that is the type of investment that should have been made. That if it was going to take some money to keep him, that money should have been made available. I tried very hard to persuade him to stay, because I still feel to this day, from a development point of view, it was a wrong time for Charlie to move.
Nicholas left the club for Arsenal in 1983. Shortly afterwards, Billy McNeill left the club after differences with the board.
No manager likes to lose good players, and I'm not any different from anybody else. But I always felt that this club did not invest. I felt investment should have been made then. I know Big Jock suffered the same problems, and it was a difficult one. I used to feel that rather than working with the board, I was often working against them, and I think that was the time that investment should have been in.
Davy Hay took up the post of Celtic manager, but almost immediately he came in for criticism.
So maybe occasionally I was questioned on my commitment with Celtic because of my nature, or my laid-back so-called attitude, but that was never the case. As time progressed as Celtic manager, I became more and more committed and more determined to do well for the fans, really.
The Scottish Cup of 1985 was the 100th year of the competition, adding to the sense of occasion.
But at that time, Davy Hay, who was a very popular manager amongst the Celtic players, his job was on the line, and we really felt that we had to win the cup for him as much as anything else. And the club had gone a couple of years without winning anything, and the supporters, we knew we owed them one as well.
And only twice in the history of the Scottish Cup have goals been scored direct from a free kick. Is this a bit of history? It is! David Provan!
And I've never known a Celtic crowd to lift us at that stage. For the last 13 or 14 minutes, it was the noise at Hampden was incredible.
Hegarty, here's Aiken. Good drifting ball, it's there, McGarvey. 2-1.
And I remember saying to Frank McGarvey after the game, I said, Frank, let's enjoy this because we're not getting any younger. And this could be the last time. And true enough, on the Monday, Frank was transferred to St Mirren, and a few months later, through illness, I had to pack in.
Celtic, as they'd done so often before, had found the resolve to fight back against the odds. This quality was never better illustrated than the following season, when the league championship race produced one of the most dramatic finishes ever.
Clare doing well, winkling the ball free to McStay. Here's Mo Johnston. It's there! Mo Johnston, the Celtic fans' hero.
We were sitting 2 points behind Hearts, who were top of the league. They were going to Dundee to play, and we were playing St Mirren at Love Street. We had to win by 3 goals. Hearts had to lose by 1 for us to win the championship.
Abercrombie in disgrace, McGrain with a delicate ball to Murray McLeod. Here's Paul McStay. Finding Aiken, now McGrain. Celtic in full cry now as McClare gets free on the right. There's Johnston. Absolutely magnificent. One of the goals of the season. McGrain. Murray McLeod, Barnes. No question about it, Celtic are certainly playing like champions. Lars Deacon testing Tom Wilson. Makes his way to the byline, here's Murray McLeod, now McStay. 4-0 to Celtic.
We were 4-0 up at half-time. The news came through from Dundee that Hearts were drawing nothing each, so obviously there was still a bit to do from their end.
Stay. Someone trying to play Celtic offside. They failed. Here's Johnston. Now Murray McLeod. McClare.
The last 10-15 minutes there was total silence in the ground. There was a huge Celtic support at Love Street that day. They were all listening to their radios, obviously, waiting for the result to come through from Dens Park. But about 8 minutes to go, a huge roar went up.
Stuart needed 2 bites. Now that must be a goal for Dundee. Sheer bedlam around the stadium. Well, you don't need to hear any more news than that. Dundee clearly has scored at Dens. And let's lift off here at Love Street. Oh, what incredible scenes.
The Celtic spirit comes from the supporters and the fact that the biggest majority of them won't leave till the game's finished, and they stand there and support you through thick and thin, and that's something the players know that until the final whistle goes they've still got a chance, and that is very much in the traditions of Celtic. They're never better than when they're in adversity. That's when they're most dangerous, and that's a true Celtic spirit, and one which we want to have running right through the whole of Celtic Football Club.
As Celtic's centenary season approached, Billy McNeill again returned as manager.
We'd lost Brian McClare, Maurice Johnson, Alan McInally, Murdo McLeod, Davy Provan, unfortunately was injured, Danny McGrain could no longer play. We worked very hard, but it all seemed to gel because, in fairness to the players, they put their shoulders to the wheel. They all got together and worked supremely hard, and all of a sudden that good team spirit developed.
There's a nice dummy. Billy Stark has scored.
we worked hard to get a spirit within the squad that season, and you know, the fact it was a centenary year and that the supporters were well aware of that as well, and you know, lifted us to possibly greater heights than we could have imagined.
Rogan's on the run. It's Gary Mackay. Rogan in a very good position here. Oh! Went beyond everybody. It's in. McStay, the equaliser.
And it's the look on Paul McStay's face when the equaliser goes in, and the way he runs spontaneously to the jungle that sums up the Celtic side and the Celtic spirit of that time.
Paul, a regular in Celtic side since his debut as a teenager, excelled himself in this season, in which he collected the Player of the Year award. His intelligence and vision made him a dominating influence in the centre of the park.
There was just a togetherness in the squad that hadn't been there for a few years. It just seemed to knit together that year, and that's what you need in football. Is you can have all the players there, but it's just got to gel, and it gelled that year, and what a year it was as well.
Stop. Here's Walker getting a bit of freedom. Stay. No offside. That's a great move by Morris. McAvenny with a chance to score. Just before half-time, the Rangers defence caught wide open. No Woods in goal, and that's a goal. McAvenny.
The signing of Frank McAvenny from West Ham for £800,000 proved a shrewd move. His goals were crucial to the campaign. The celebrations were continued off the park with a variety of events to mark the centenary year. At the Pavilion Theatre, the Celtic story was received with critical and popular acclaim.
This club was the People's Club. It was founded by a very astute group of Irish immigrants. They took the name Celtic, which became Celtic, obviously, because I think it was synonymous with both countries. And, you know, that's heritage. And that has been passed on from father to son. They feel a real part of the club, and I think that will always be the case. And I think that's what often creates and makes this club very special.
Brother Walfred originally formed the club to alleviate poverty among his parishioners of the East End. Another aim was to engender pride within the community. He would have approved greatly of the celebrations that took place that year.
Appeals to handball against Goff, it's still not clear for Rangers. There's Paul McStay. Paul McStay with the opening goal. 21 minutes into the second half. The Celtic end goes wild. There's Tommy Burns with the in-swinger. It's in. It's come off Andy Walker. The header was by Rogan, but Walker got the last touch.
I remember the time actually the league playing Dundee here at Celtic Park, and they were actually spilling out onto the track. It was absolutely incredible. We were sitting everywhere. Up in the back was a stand, up on the roof of the Celtic end in the jungle. It was never seen a crowd like it. It was frightening.
Rogan! That must be a great chance. Must be yes. Morris. Trying to swing it round. That's a very good ball. Walker has done it. What a fine goal. Walker again. Oh! 45 seconds. 3-0. Gallagher's goal. superb goal. Billy Stark, neat little touch. Play to the far side, here's Rogan. Ransabella with a equaliser. Machiavelli. The lower one this time, and Murphy. Machiavelli. Seconds from the end, Machiavelli does it. And there goes the final whistle. The double for Celtic. A quite astonishing ending. And Billy Nialola's being smothered by the bench. Not only winning, but in the most dramatic fashion.
That was one of the wonderful times that you have with a club like this. And the fact that it happened in the centenary year was part of the fairy tale, I suppose.
Football without fans is nothing. You play a football match without fans, you've got nothing. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing. Give a great game with no one there, as you say, it's nothing. Give an average game with a big crowd, excitement, atmosphere, this makes it a great game. The fans are the lifeblood of the game.
Every supporter has a special memory, a favourite occasion of supporting Celtic. The most memorable occasions are almost invariably European nights.
So fresh in my mind, it's incredible. I particularly remember the Benfica game when we won 3-0. Tommy Gemmell's goal. It felt like 60 yards that night. I think it was about 40. I think it's still going yet.
Someone asked me the reasons why I took up football and get really into it. The reason was Celtic, 67 and onwards, and Brazil 1970. And that's the reason why I still think about football, how I still feel.
Celtic Real Madrid. It's my favourite, without a doubt. Brilliant, atmosphere is tremendous. Johnny Doyle scored with a head, first time he's ever scored with a head. What a night that was. The best ever night here at Celtic Park.
Man cuts infield, comes it in left-footed, keeper drops it. It's going to be a goal. McCluskey scores, keeper's mistake. Made by Snedden, scored by McCluskey. Celtic lead 1-0, and that is much more like it. So 15 minutes to play. Ball being held, but referee waving play on. Well, that was an aim for Snedden, but straight to Cunningham. Good recovery by Provan, did well. This is McLeod, Snedden on the right. I don't think McLeod sees him. Yes, he does. Snedden floating it across, and comes Doyle with a header. Oh, it's a goal! It's a goal! Johnny Doyle scores! Again made by Snedden. Oh, what a goal! What a beautiful goal, Johnny Doyle.
Sport Lisbon game in here was a fantastic night. Again, 2-0 down for the first leg.
Beautiful control. Good chance here. Great chance for Burns. Goal! Provan. Oh, what a chance. McAdam buries it. 2-2. What a goal. What a goal. Into the second minute of injury time. McLeod going through with a chance. What a goal! Oh my goodness, what a goal by McLeod. This is unbelievable. Again. The crowd now. Gavi just onside. Out in front. McLeod, goal! So there. McLeod. Burns has to release it at just the right time, which he does. Chance for McGarvey. It's there! It's there! What a pass, what a goal, what a game.
In an age of Rangers domination, there have been some rare victories over Celtic's main rivals. With manager Tommy Burns at the helm, Celtic began season 93-94 with a new sense of purpose, and a 2-0 victory over Rangers delighted followers of the club. Having led Celtic to the final of the Coca-Cola Cup, only to lose on penalties to Wraith Rovers, the team have come tantalisingly close to picking up a much-needed trophy. However, the task of rebuilding the club is a long-term one and will only be achieved with the backing of the supporters.
The one thing that hasn't been diminished in any way is the support. They're still there, their loyalty's remarkable. And that is the thing that takes Celtic Football Club through the bad times, the support to be there in the bad times. And the real supporters are the ones that are there week in, week out. And who knows, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road now, then we're winning things consistently. Then the real supporters can sit back and think to themselves, well, we're winning things now and things are well, but we were there when we were going through the hard times. And the good times are never sweeter unless you've had the bad times.
So as long as the support knows that we are doing whatever we possibly can with all the resources we can muster, I think they'll be there. We've got a good manager now, we've got a plan in place, and we're going to build for a successful future.
On the 1st of June 1993, 20,000 supporters turned out in atrocious conditions for a nostalgic occasion marking the passing of the jungle as we know it. The main event was a match between the Lisbon Lions side and the Manchester United team, which won the European Cup the following year.
Everybody's here for the one thing, it's just because they love standing here, and it's part of a great club and everybody's just delighted to be there. Now we realise we took everything for granted because success is so sparse at the moment, and we can only look back and realise that we were spoilt as far as Glasgow Celtic and a treat for football was concerned.
My grandma's here now, they're the future ones for the jungle if we can get in.
Maybe keeps it going. Maybe play for them someday, hopefully. Very nice. Not been that many lately, so all our yesterdays.
And if you go to Celtic Park, even in the stand or even the Rangers and Celtic games it used to be, there was always that feeling. But in the jungle, the closeness and the tightness, it seemed very special. It was a real kind of family sort of feeling.
It's not just getting there into the jungle. I think it's from when you leave your house, meet up with your mates, travelling the bus together. There's a constant atmosphere about you so that you really have got something to look forward to in life. And it was Celtic. And there was thousands and thousands like that. And you knew that your father was going with his friends. The whole community just revolved around about this crazy football club. And Celtic really meant that much to people.
What is your opinion when it comes to judging Celtic as a football team?
Well, my opinion is Celtic's the greatest team in the world.
Nobody will beat us anyway. The best football team in the world. And they can't destroy them, they can't beat them.
What is the great thing about them? What's the greatest?
The heart! Hey!
I always appreciate everything that Celtic supporters did for me and encouragement they gave me. A club that's helped you as much in your life as what they did. You get no pleasure out of seeing them having a struggle or losing a game. You can share a little bit in any success you get because you can identify with the people that are there.
Celtic was our team. That was what we were brought up with. We were the guys that Celtic this, Celtic that, and go to watch them and talk about the Jimmy Johnsons and Billy McNeil and Glenn Clark and Bobby Lennox, Bertie Hall, Murdoch, the whole lot, and Stevie Chalmers. They all just tip off the tongue. They were, at that time, that was the greatest time in Celtic history.